It is the 7th all-time War for the Wheels Saturday night here at Saluki Stadium. Doesn't get any easier in this gala of the schedule for Saluki football. Alongside the Saluki radio crew, Mike Trude, the Coach Pat Poor. I am Luke Martin. Coach Poor, you're the only one out of the three of us that have coached in this game. Describe just the intensity of this rivalry with Coach Took. I know you know extremely well.
Yeah, it's a really good rivalry trophy game, and you know, in the last 6 years, it's become a classic both ways. So because you know each other really well, not only personally but program-wise, and with it being a trophy and a rivalry game, the intensity and the competitiveness just gets amped up big time.
Every season is different, Mike, but since 2018, the winner of this game has gone on to the postseason, and the loser hasn't.
Yeah, it's kind of a strange phenomenon that maybe you don't like to talk about to your team. And I go back to a couple of the times when Southeast did beat the Salukis. Southern lost to Youngstown State later in the year. Both those games would have put the Salukis into the FCS playoffs. So is it the SEMO game or is it the culmination of the season? It just so happens that the winner of this game has gone on to make the playoffs.
And every time SEMO has made the postseason, including 2010, they won this game against the Southern Illinois Salukis. Okay, let's talk about SEMO and offensively. It really starts with their quarterback, Coach Poor, Paxton DeLaurent. When he's been in the game, they have been slinging it around the yard. What stands out about DeLaurent, who's back, who we saw a year ago?
I think he shows a high amount of intelligence in terms of how he plays, you know, comparing him to who we saw last week. Talent-wise, maybe a little bit of difference, but the thing that DeLaurent does is he throws to off coverage, and I believe he checks into things where he creates safe throws for himself. And, you know, obviously he's got two good weapons on the outside, and Coach Took's a good football coach. He's going to do what he needs to do to win.
Salukis have thrown 72 passes on the year. DeLaurent last week threw 63 passes against UT Martin. But Geno Hess has now graduated. He is gone. Ryan Flournoy, he's in the NFL. Their top receiving target is gone. But don't let that fool you. There is still plenty of weapons, as Coach Poor described, on the offensive side of the ball for Coach Took.
Yeah, and Sellers is a typical Took recruit at wide receiver, 6'5", can go get the ball, caught 3 touchdown passes against UT Martin, had been injured and came into the game and, you know, caught 6 passes, had 3 touchdowns in the game. And he's just third on the list of the top receivers on their team. They have a couple other guys who have caught the bulk of the balls, but that 6'5" receiver seems to be something that Took has year in and year out, who can just go up and make plays.
It's a lot like Southern too, Coach Poor. When you think of the best teams in program history, it may be because of that defense. And for Coach Took, he's known for having really good defenses for teams that have been good. You've seen their defense so far this year. What stood out?
Yeah, Took, being an old linebacker, they're built, his thumbprints all over that defense, and they really haven't changed a whole lot. They've always been a 3-down, and, you know, obviously he's done a good job of recruiting linebackers to kind of emulate how he wants that position to play. They've went a little bit more 4-down, it seems like, in the past 2 games, but in the most part, scheme-wise, they haven't changed. They're going to load up, play bare front, and try and stop the run, and then be good in the back end. When we've had a lot of success, we've exploited their secondary. It's always been a struggle to just line up and go, hey, we're going to run over you. That's something that Took, principle-wise, is like, you're not going to run the ball against my teams.
Mike, looking at that defense too, I mean, Bryce Norman seems to be a really big piece for them at that linebacker position, as Coach Poor just described. Who are a couple guys that maybe stood out to you with their defense?
Well, their linebackers, 4 of their linebackers are in the top 5 in tackles on the team. Norman obviously is the biggest. Riddick at defensive back has actually made the most tackles on the team for the Redhawks, but Matt Walton and Pedroza and McCoy, all other linebackers who get a lot of playing time, and their defense is set up kind of like ours. It's up to that defensive line to make the caveat little lanes for the linebackers to come in and get in there and make those tackles. And as Pat said, Took does not want teams to run the ball against you. He wants you to force you to throw the ball. And in this situation with the Salukis, our line has been playing really well the last couple of weeks. I know it's going to be Coach Hill's mantra to run the ball, get over 100 yards on the ground to set things up for the Saluki offense.
Only one loss so far this year for SEMO, and it was a game that they could have easily won against New Mexico State. You look at their last 8 losses, counting the one this year, Coach Poor, 5 of them have been by one possession. Coach Tuke and his squad has just been snake-bitten at the end of games here over the last 2 years.
Yeah, and some of that, just goes back to the type of games those were, where it's, hey, it really does. It comes down to 2, 3, 5 plays, and they've just not been able to make those and, get over the top in terms of winning those type of games. And that's football, and we're going to see that. It's going to be that type of game. It's going to be a dandy as far as just the competitiveness of every snap is going to really count, and you want to play it on both sides of the ball to the best of our abilities.
Let's flip it to the Southern perspective for this game. No disappointing news with DJ Williams, going to miss some significant time. He had surgery on his throwing hand. He broke his finger in his throwing hand. Takes maybe a little bit of the wind out of the sails, a little bit. But everybody internally within the program, Mike Trude, is excited for the opportunity now that Hunter Simmons has.
There's probably nobody on the Saluki team who knows the Saluki offense better than Hunter Simmons. He's been in the program for years, the understudy under Nick Baker. I asked him one of the questions when I talked to him this week. When you are contemplating the next play, is the play that comes in the play that you would have probably called? He goes, a lot of times that is the situation. So he knows how the offense thinks, and he can make all the throws. That's never been a question. Can he make the throws? Yes. Is he as a dynamic runner as DJ? No, and he'll be the first to admit that. But he can run the football. He's got decent speed, and he can make those plays as well.
What made the win against Incarnate Word so special, Coach Poor, was the Salukis played complementary football on both sides. How do they continue that against SEMO?
Well, I think one is just there's a great amount of confidence in Hunter, even though it's his first true start, but his ability to run the offense and be efficient, and I think that's a huge thing for SIU, is to be able to come out and just relax and be us and run our offense, and Hunter can absolutely do that. I think to a man everybody feels comfortable with that. And then on defense, it's going to be similar to last week. Just going to have to play hair on fire, get after it defense, and just believe in the system and the calls and situations. And I think that'll be a big thing in this game, is those situations and when they occur and who wins those situations, as far as down in the red zone, getting scores, big third or maybe fourth down conversions that keep drives going. And then I think the other thing too is, our kicking game. These have been close games right down to the wire, and, their guy, he's got a 53-yarder, and, we feel good about our guy, and it could very well come down to one of those tick, 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 and clock runs out and we kick it and win it.
Last 2 games, the winning score has been with 11 seconds left in regulation. It has come down literally to the final seconds between the Red Hawks and Salukis. Well, if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, you better. There's been some rumors circulating around the Saluki athletic offices that the only tickets that may be left are on the berm for Saturday. So if you haven't gotten them yet here on Friday, be sure to do that, because it's going to be a fantastic environment tomorrow night. Family weekend, a whole lot going on here at Saluki Stadium, and most importantly, the war for the wheel. Our coverage will begin tomorrow night at 5 o'clock on the Saluki Radio Network, and kickoff will be at 6. For my partners, the Coach Pat Poor, Mike Trude, I am Luke Martin. We will talk to you tomorrow night from Saluki Stadium. Go Dogs.